Hello everyone, Rorius here. Welcome to Half-Life 2 Episode 1 Developer Commentary playthrough. I tried finding a little gap in Dr. Kleiner's speech, but there's such a little gap that I couldn't do my intro in time. So, I'm gonna have to just dull his voice down, and let's get started. Alrighty. Watching the intro...
Welcome to Half-Life 2, Episode 1. We received a great deal of positive feedback on the commentary track in The Lost Coast, and so we've included the same feature in this episode. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your Use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the Use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game in order to show something to you. In these cases, simply press your Use key again to stop the commentary. With episodic content, we are hoping to release games much more frequently than has been possible with the monolithic development schedules of the past. Game developers and game customers have been wanting to try this for years. Please let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play this, our latest installment in the ongoing adventures of Gordon Freeman. I can be reached at gayben@valvesoftware.com. Thanks, and have fun.
Tell me, Dr. Freeman, if you can.
Gaben.
You have destroyed so much. What is it exactly that you have created? Can you name even one thing? I thought not.
We used an upgrade of the refract shader from Half-Life 2 to make the Vortigaunts warp into the intro. The major difference is that this time we are only refracting pixels that come from the Vortigaunts themselves. We placed a large sheet of refractive geometry in front of each Vortigaunt to achieve this effect.
I see.
This intro sequence establishes some important initial pieces of Episode 1's story and setting. Our earlier versions of the intro sequence were heavy on graphic effects and relatively light on storytelling. When we showed those early versions to playtesters, they thought it was cool, but rarely had any idea what was supposed to be happening. We went through several iterations, each time simplifying the editing and tightening up the effects. We eventually arrived at a good middle ground between the sort of psychedelic look we were shooting for and basic comprehension of what was actually taking place.
Cool.
We'll see about that.
Sorry, I was like half focused on the cutscene and half focused on the developer commentary just then, so I didn't hear everything they just said. I forgot that they had commentary like right at the start like that.
He has to be somewhere around here.
Every time I come back to this game, I like it more and more. I'll actually just put on the captions because I just suddenly realized that I actually thought the captions came up with the developer commentary. Maybe that's like a thing that's in newer commentary node stuff, but it's not in this one. So I'll put the subtitles on so you can read it. Yeah, every time I come back to episode 1, I remember why I actually love this game.
I found something.
There's a lot of stuff I love
Help
in.
me over. Oh my God, Gordon! I was so worried. Hey, the gravity gun. Give it to him, dog.
Yeah. Once again, like in the end
Here,
of
Gordon. Doc
Half-Life
happy
2,
to see you. I can tell.
mostly
Okay,
gravity gun
Doc.
play.
Go get the monitor set up so we can check in with my dad. He must be worried sick about us. He was so sure I wouldn't find you here. The Citadel's really coming apart.
Yeah.
Still don't know how
crazy.
we got out of there. The last thing I remember is rain falling, a huge explosion, and then I heard Vortigaunts. Next thing I knew, Dog was digging me out of the rubble. Oh, it's all so strange. We should. It's my dad. We've been trying to reach him for hours.
Okay, well, you go ahead. I'm gonna listen to these nodes.
Wait till he hears that we found you.
Okay, you do
Players
that.
love Dog, so we made sure that he was the first thing you see when you wake up in Episode 1. We also wanted players to get a glimpse of the crippled Citadel. When Dog lifts you out of the rubble, it's one of the few instances in the game when we take control of the player's view. This allowed us to ensure the player's view lingered briefly on the Citadel before Dog set them down.
Right. Well, I'm torn. Do I leave the subtitles on but give the opportunity to miss a commentary node by not seeing what number it is? Or do I... I'm sure the commentary nodes actually have quite good volume on them. So that would have been 4, I think.
Players love Dog.
Yeah, so 4.
The Citadel is supposed to be a building of unprecedented scale. So out of scale with the rest of the world, in fact, that we couldn't render it without our 3D skybox technology. This technology allows us to build the Citadel as a 1/16th scale model off in an unreachable corner of the map, and seamlessly merge it into the scene. We also use this technology to create the illusion of vast spaces and distant horizons.
Yeah.
Since we never take control away from the players, it can be a real pain to get them to notice important environmental events. It's a constant design challenge for us. The Citadel will be erupting at a massive light show that took 10 of us 2 months to orchestrate, and if we're not careful, the player will end up facing the other direction staring at a tire. In this case, to establish that the Citadel is coming apart at the seams, we wanted the player to notice the debris falling off of it. We used a pretty straightforward method here. Alex explicitly mentions the Citadel while pointing at it. Like most of these solutions, it's not foolproof, but it has a high success rate.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting to hear about all the stuff they do to try and draw the player's attention.
This area was redesigned several times in order to keep the player in this space while Alex delivers some exposition. As much as we hated to do it, the final solution was to have Alex climb out while the player looks for an alternate route. We portray Alex as more athletic and nimble than Gordon, so players shouldn't get too irritated by the fact that she can get to places they can't. Honestly, we're not especially happy with this crutch, but it's a trade-off we sometimes have to make so that we can get Alex out of the way of interesting player challenges.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's something that's always been the case. Like, you see it in Half-Life 2 as well, where Alex, like, climbs up the side of a building, for instance, and acts as, like, a scout. She's got that kind of build. She's more sort of slender and athletic.
Dad, are you there?
Alex? Alex, come in.
Hold on a sec, there's so much interference. Hey, Dog, give me a hand with this.
That's right. This is so cool. Grabs onto the antenna and then, like, turns into an antenna himself.
Right. There we go, hold it there. We got it.
Like that.
Dad.
That's
Alex,
so cool.
where are you? Please, God, tell me you're out of the city.
Well, not quite yet.
What?
But listen, Dad, we found him.
You found Gordon? I don't believe it. But listen, you...
Wait, is there a... It's so frustrating that you can't boost the character audio.
You two have to get out of the city. The Citadel could blow at any moment.
There's no question that it will, I'm afraid. Our remote sensors indicate the process is accelerating toward a dark energy flare. Anyone left in the vicinity will be subjected to energetic events whose effects are beyond my powers of speculation. The ravages to cellular material are unimaginable.
Stop!
Dad?
Oh dear, Eli, I'm sorry, but surely there's no need for undue alarm. Alex is well out of harm's way by now.
Well, actually, we're still at the Citadel.
What? Oh dear, but there's really no time. The core is exceedingly close to collapse. Why, there's no way to get far enough without first... Well, nothing short of a direct intervention in the core could possibly retard the reaction.
You mean going in?
Into the core, yes. But it's far too dangerous to consider. The chamber will be bathed in radiation.
Well, you do have the hazard suit. If we found a way into the Citadel, it's possible we could...
Alex, no!
But Dad!
Izzy, talk some sense into her.
I'm sorry, Eli, but I don't see any other way. It would help us evacuate more citizens.
We can do this, Dad.
Okay, Alex, okay, just promise me. Promise me that you won't take a single unnecessary risk.
I promise. I love you.
I love you too, baby. I'll be praying for you.
Don't worry. I'll see you soon. Yeah. Don't worry. Let's see if we can find a way into the Citadel from somewhere along the rim.
They did a lot to try and
Dog, a little help, please?
heighten character animation and emotional delivery in this game.
Thanks. Okay, boy. back up and meet us on the far side of this ridge.
She's gonna do this
Whoa.
stuff.
What a drop. After you, Gordon.
Yep. Just let me listen to these first. Okay.
Right off the bat, we needed to hammer home some story points, reintroduce the cast of characters, and explain the player's immediate goal. It was a pretty intimidating chunk of non-interactive exposition. We generally approach these scenes by writing way too much, and then through constant playtesting, trimming the scene to more manageable levels. But in this case, even after some heroic pruning, the opening scene still felt too long. We ended up splitting the introductory sequence into 3 scenes, separated by some gravity gun puzzle solving, and then a dramatic walk across a crumbling ledge.
Yeah.
When we designed the Half-Life 2 facial system back in 2000, our goal was to get a natural-looking performance at a moderate distance. Given our real-time polygon and texture budgets, we chose fairly reserved or constrained performances over ever having the actors' faces get into a bad-looking or unnatural expression. For Episode 1, we wanted to extend the character's facial system to support more intense performances with a wider range of facial expressions that would hold up better at close range. These facial improvements included increasing the detail around the eyes and mouth, increasing the number of facial shape targets, think of these as movements of muscle groups, by about 50%, rewriting the rules that control how these shapes blend, and increasing the intensity of many of our existing shapes. In addition, we added support for controlling the amplitude of the facial movement for lip sync animation, which let us dampen or amplify the mouth shapes based on the volume or intensity of the dialogue.
Yeah, because there's a somewhat automated system for mouthal movements in this game for the animation. So yeah, adding the amplifier means you can increase the intensity of some of those movements, make them look a little bit more realistic. But it also enables, I believe that's where all of the if you watched Gmod Idiot Box back in the day or whatever, the super intense facial expressions thing comes from, because you can just amplify the shit out of it. You can have lips going in all sorts of places, eyes going inside themselves and stuff, yeah.
Monitor scenes are especially difficult to make interesting, since they tend to involve literally just talking heads. By interweaving critical expository information, like how dangerous the Citadel has become, with some dramatic character interactions between Alex, Eli, and Dr. Kleiner, we were able to convert a potential liability into one of the strongest scenes in the game. A great way to illustrate characters' relationships to each other is to have one of the characters in danger and show the other's reactions to it, which is what this scene is all about.
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure I didn't miss any nodes. Okay, cool. I didn't miss any. 11.
Sometimes we need to keep the player in an area so that we can deliver some critical dialogue or run an important sequence of events. In these cases, we temporarily block the player's path using what we call a gate. These gates generally take the form of some obstacle that can only be removed or opened by some character or event. In this case, the obstacle is a crashed gunship that can only be moved out of the way by Dog. Though the final scene looks pretty straightforward, a lot of care had to be taken to make sure that Dog hit his marks and played his sequences without trampling and damaging the player.
Yeah. And then we'll listen to this before we go through.
Alex travels through much of Episode 1 with the player, and consequently passes through a wider variety of lighting conditions than she did in Half-Life 2. This meant that we had to improve the quality of the lighting algorithms used on Alex to look realistic in any situation, from the eerie hallways of the Citadel to the streets of City 17 at sunset. For this episode, we added a specular lighting term to the shaders used on Alex, which provides a realistic shiny look to her skin, her leather jacket, and even her teeth. In these new lighting calculations, we chose to specifically emphasize bright highlights caused by illumination from grazing angles. This type of lighting, also referred to as rim lighting, is particularly dramatic when coming from low-angle light sources such as this bright sunset. You'll also note that the rim lighting is further enhanced by our high dynamic range post-processing, which causes the specular highlights to bloom in a striking and dramatic fashion. We have found that the move to an episodic development cycle allows us to take advantage of the fast pace of graphics hardware innovation by incrementally adding new features, such as Alex's new lighting techniques, to the source engine with each new episode.
Yeah. So HDR lighting was first introduced in the, what was it called? The Lost Coast mini demo thingy. And that was a demo essentially for this game. This game was the real showcase of the HDR lighting system. Yeah, so there's been a lot of... Oh, I just fell off. Oopsies. Now Alex should follow me. Yep, there we go. But yeah, there's a lot of nodes right at the start here, so this episode's probably going to not... I'm not going to get very far in this episode, because There's a lot of nodes to listen to. I'm prioritizing making sure I find all the nodes over actually hearing people like Alex and stuff in this game.
This ledge is a really tricky spot for NPCs to navigate. While we wanted Alex to be able to maneuver dynamically through any complex environment, in certain navigation situations we're faced with a trade-off between flexibility and visual quality. In this particular case, she navigates the ledge with a combination of AI and scripted animations. We've continued to evolve the systems of Half-Life 2 whereby characters move fluidly through dynamic AI and scripted navigation, but ultimately what matters most is how it looks to the player.
Yeah. So, for instance, she moves dynamically until she gets to that, where she ducks under it. That's an animation. And then she moves, once again, dynamically as an NPC until she gets over to the ledge here, and then she goes into an animated sequence of jumping. So yeah, it's switching back and forth between, like, the proper dynamic NPC AI kind of systems and predetermined animation for the execution, I guess. Yeah. So, I'm probably gonna have to listen to a lot of this, go through the cutscene for this,
Why
and
is
then...
Dog taking so long? Dog! Dog! Look out! Oh my god, dog! Dog! Dog, are you alright?
He just like shows up over here. Oh, there we are.
Oh my god.
Dog's fine.
You scared the hell out of me. Now stay with us and help us find a way over. I cannot believe we're trying to get back in that place. This isn't gonna be easy.
Yeah, I actually love the improvement in the
Well,
facial
dog,
animation.
what do you think? Any ideas?
Yeah, he's like trying out different...
All right, dog. That's not too helpful.
Aw. She underestimates
Way
his
to get across.
intelligence.
How? What about dog? Dog, where are you going? Is it something I said? Huh? Dog, what are you? I think dog needs a few bolts tightened.
Yeah. Throws over some stuff. You can be killed by this. You can be killed by that if you're not careful.
Dog, really, that was a little close. What's gotten into you, huh? How exactly is this supposed to help us? What? Wait a minute.
He just pulls the door off.
You're not serious.
Oh, that's adorable. I missed most of it. No.
Well, Gordon, unless you have a better suggestion, he is a robot who's done the math.
This is good. No.
I want you to get out of here as fast as you can. Go find Dad. We'll catch up, don't worry. All right. I'll miss you too. Now, don't worry about me. I'll see you soon. Get in the passenger side, Gordon.
Okay, before I do that...
Our games are created by design collectives that we call cabals. When the idea to have you and Alex sit in a van and then have Dog toss it across the gorge was first suggested during a cabal meeting, everyone thought it was funny, and then we moved on to more serious solutions for the gorge crossing. As the design progressed, though, we kept coming back to the van idea, and eventually everyone agreed that we should give it a try. Even though the idea was kind of outrageous, it satisfied some key goals we had for the scene. Alex and the player get across the impassable gorge, and Dog is able to play a key role in the mission, while also plausibly getting left behind. There were still some problems to solve, though. Attaching animated models to the van was tricky. Making sure the van didn't kill the player took some thought.
Yeah.
And it took a number of tries before we were able to really illuminate Dog's thinking, as he went from testing his idea with chunks of debris to finally presenting the plan to Alex.
I actually think it's a great
Ultimately, we were able to create a scene that solved some tricky game design issues, provided an intimate view of the relationship between Alex and Dog, and delivered a surprising and visceral entrance to the Citadel.
area.
Yeah, anyway, okay.
It's really important to us to create scenes that showcase strong relationships between our characters. The relationship between Alex and Dog seems to be especially satisfying to players. In the scene leading up to the van toss, we had a bug before the animation was complete, where Dog's head would shake as he looked back at Alex.
Okay, Gordon.
In a happy accident, his head shook right after she asked him, "You did do the math, right?"
Yeah.
In playtests, players thought this was intentional and always laughed. Because of that, we worked it into the animation, and it ended up being a terrific little moment between Dog and Alex.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about before. Like, it's a great moment. Like, she's like, you did do the math, right? And he's just like, that's great. Yeah, I love Dog. Such a great character. This is quite the scene.
Okay, Dog, let's do
Quite
it.
the difficult
Before I change
thing to
mine.
execute.
Okay.
Because the player is essentially
Careful, hold on.
on rails with a physics object. It's not actually a physics object by this point. It's all an animation, but...
Good throw, Dog. Now go, boy, go on. You'll be fine. Just what now? Whoa. Hold on.
Yeah. Quite the... You can sort of watch her in this scene if you want, because she does do some interesting motion, but it's more valuable, I think.
Let's get off before the next ride starts.
I think it looks better if you just take the ride like a roller coaster, you know. And then the van falls off. It's like, okay, that was the next ride that we just happened to avoid. Oh dear. Alright, let's listen to this before anything else starts.
To convey a sense of urgency, we originally designed Alex to nag the player pretty frequently. She'd say things like, "Hurry up and keep moving." Whether or not this created a sense of urgency is debatable. But after about 3 minutes of this, the one thing it definitely did was make the player hate Alex.
Yeah.
This was one of the observations that eventually led us to switch Alex from generally leading the players to almost always following. Through playtesting, we discovered that players much preferred to set the pace themselves, and that they especially disliked virtually any hint of bossiness from Alex.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that even before when she was nagging me to get into the vehicle, that just makes you annoyed, you know. If you're trying to experience the game, you don't want characters in the game to be telling you what to do. Yeah, I'm in such a bind between adding subtitles or adding or keeping just the, I don't know, developer commentary by itself. I don't know what to do because I don't want to miss any developer commentary nodes, and the numbers on the nodes tell me how many I've done and let me know if I'm missing anything. So it's quite challenging. I wonder if you can...
Oh, what a drop. We gotta find a way down to the core. I wish we had a map.
Yeah. Stalkers are in this area, they're freaky. Okay, so I think I've just set it up so that I should be able to toggle the subtitles on and off, so when we're listening to these, no subtitles, but then when we're playing the game, Alex can actually talk to us, you know?
We populate our environments with spots where players can take a break to look out over an expanse of cool scenery. We call these vistas. This particular vista was designed to give anyone familiar with the Citadel interior from Half-Life 2 a good view of what it looks like now that everything's falling apart. The pods that are sliding off their track and into the abyss really sell the idea that the Citadel is half abandoned and in chaos.
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, no one's maintaining those aspects anymore. They're just being, they're just falling to bits, basically, yeah. Completely unmonitored.
In an early version of this map, Alex led the player through the whole thing. To make Alex seem less omniscient, we had her access a console here to get her bearings. It exploded, which helped drive home the point that the Citadel was in bad shape, but generally, it was a long pause in the action without a lot of payoff. After we made the high-level decision to have Alex follow the player, this entire scene became irrelevant, and we happily cut the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, because now she's following us, so we just make our way around, and she follows us around. That's actually really interesting. It's good. It's a good thing to note. problems disappear when...
Stalkers. Well, they shouldn't bother us if we leave them alone.
Yeah, stalkers are creepy.
Damn, I can't get this down. Something... It's that stalker. He's holding it from the other side. We don't have time to look for another way around. How are we gonna get through here?
Yeah, we figure out a way to get round here. There we are. Yeah. Roller mines going through here, these
Can you
tubes.
find where those roller mines are going? I've got an idea how to use one here.
Okay, well, just hold off for a second.
Training is one of the fundamental tenets of our design philosophy. Before the player is required to utilize some new game mechanic, or new weapon, or face a new monster under pressure in a dangerous situation, we always introduce the concept in a relatively calm, but ideally still entertaining way. This entire scene teaches the player that Alex can convert roller mines so that they can be used as a friendly weapon.
Yeah.
Later, the player is required to do this in more pressing circumstances, but at this point, everything's still pretty calm. In the original
relatively
design,
speaking.
the player retrieved the roller mine from a dispenser and used it to take out a combine soldier who was holding the field from the other side. Eventually, we scrapped that idea and combined the roller mine training with some stalker exposition that originally occurred in a separate scene.
Yeah, yeah. There's more of that later on, I believe.
In a good puzzle, the player is presented with an overall goal, and then faces a number of smaller challenges in pursuit of that goal. In the case of the stalker puzzle, we start with, how do I open the door? From there, we move to, how do I get to the stalker? Then, how do I get to the roller mines? How do I get the roller mine back to Alex? And finally, how do I use the roller mine to disable the stalker?
Yeah. So yeah, I like this scene. I like the scene a fair bit. Because you get to see a lot of stuff about the stalkers. You learn a lot more about the stalkers, because they were just sort of like a little side thing in the first game. They were intended to be much more present in Half-Life. Oh god. I fell in like that. Oopsies. They were initially intended to be much more present. Oh god. Much more present in the final game. In the original game, sorry. But in Half-Life 2, they ended up just scrapping it mostly. And just keeping them in their form that they... Well, keeping them as like a little side note kind of a thing. Okay. Fall off the edge. There we go. So we have one. We only want one. Oh, I thought I was already standing on it. That was startling. Okay. We got this like slightly non-functional elevator.
Oh, you found one. Dad taught me how to reset the targeting system on these things. A little extra juice in the right spot, and it's on our side. I'll hold it out where I can work on it.
Work on it right here.
There it is. It's a lot more unstable, but it should last long enough to take out the stalkers.
See, you launch it through here, and it rolls through. And this is what having the glass is really good, because you can get a good look of it, a good view of it doing its thing.
We can get through now.
Oh, and now it's going into overdrive mode. You can watch it go into overdrive mode and then explode. Okay, I think I fixed it. It was showing closed captions. It was showing like sounds and stuff as well. But I think I fixed it so that it's no longer going to do that.
We wanted to create an atmosphere of urgency in the Citadel, with Alex and the player focused on getting to the core to stop the impending collapse. Initially, we tried to reflect that urgency through Alex's behavior and acting. This proved to be unsustainable, however. If the player didn't choose to advance, Alex eventually ran out of lines or animations and was forced into her very non-urgent idle states. We found that the best approach was for Alex to have such implicit trust in and sympathy with the player that she's always content to proceed at whatever pace the player chooses. Once we adopted this principle, lines where Alex sounded impatient or frustrated with the pace of progress quickly stood out and were cut.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, they made it, they learned a valuable lesson about making games player-driven and not, you know, frustratingly pulling the player along. Yeah, so I think this episode's probably gone on long enough. It's probably gone on too long, really. I've been trying to reduce how long I spend on videos. Yeah. We sort of go through unnoticed mostly, because the Combine are busy dealing with other problems. What the? Whatever the case, we'll leave it right there. Yeah, I've been trying to reduce the length of some of my videos, because some of my videos recently have been very long. So I'll keep these developer commentary videos relatively short, but then when you're listening to full dialogue stuff about the game, there's only so much you can reduce the length of the game, length of the video. So we'll have to just leave it. We'll try and keep the minimal, you know, shorter than previous videos. But yeah, we won't push too hard to make them really short or anything. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll be doing a lot more of this because there's quite a bit more developer commentary to go. There's quite a bit of episode 1 developer commentary, and then there's episode 2 is a fairly long game, you know, fairly long episode, but it's got full developer commentary right through, so that could take some time to get through. But until we get there, we'll get through episode 1's developer commentary, and we'll see how it goes. If you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more from me, then subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always,